Hi everyone. This is a supplement actually to the workshop that was given yesterday on fascia as well as embryology. So I made a boo-boo and forgot to record the first part. So just to give a little bit of context, I'm going to just re-record the content that we covered in the beginning of the workshop. And also the embodied meditation that that we started to practice with. So you're going to see two parts to this video. This is the beginning, which I am supplementing, and then it's going to jump right into the practice after the meditation. Okay, so enjoy. We are starting with a little bit of explanation in regards to our being in nature, and that when we study the body, we are really studying a much bigger consciousness, because it is so much more than our physical form that we are looking to heal or to connect. And in order to find those connections, in order to come into healing self, healing others, healing the planet, we want to really kind of bring back that interconnection. So I think this period of time in our life is really a wake-up call to become more in tune with how we live as a species and as well as an individual. And how is this related to the fascia? Fascia is connective tissue in the body, and the key word here is connect. So it connects to everything, every single entity that's within our body. We think that, you know, our body is separate, and in a lot of anatomical textbooks and biomechanics principles, we often look at the body in separate parts. I think there is value in segregation, in ability to just looking at separate parts of the body in order to understand the whole. But that is merely a map. And what I'm offering you today is to actually explore the terrain. Okay, so before we get more into the theory, I would like to just show you some visuals to get you into a sense of the terrain theory. Okay. In the meantime, maybe I should just turn off my other distractions. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going to share screen here. I'm going to hope that this will turn out okay, or else I would have to redo everything else. Okay. Doesn't seem like it. So I'm just going to assume that you are able to see this part. Okay. So this is a visual image by a photographer with the name of Peter Alves, and he is an Australian photographer, and he photographed this place in the southernmost point of Australia during a period of time where there is a flood over Lake Eyre. And this is actually a desert. and he's labeled this set of his photography, the green desert, as in how water brings about life in the desert land. And this is an amazing visual of nature, and how when fluid starts to flow, life begins. So I will show you a little bit more on some more images, and I invite you to just come into more of a felt sense of how your body is responding to these visuals. And bear in mind that these are all images, they are real photography. They are not actually paintings, although they do look like paintings. He took these pictures from a helicopter, so they are just amazing aerial views of landscape and country, of this desert that has been flooded, and life begins in the desert. And if we can just kind of superimpose this desert land, or this green desert land, into our body, into the landscape of our being. I'm going to show you another set. And an embodiment teacher once said, actually quite recently, she's also from Australia, and she mentioned a lot about country. And if we were to really explore our inner landscape, will the rocks be our bones? The sediments, the sand, the soil, the connective tissue, the water be the fluids that's traveling through our body. We are made of 67% water or fluids within our body, depending on our health. A baby can be up to 70% fluids within the body. And if we also just think of rocks and trees, rocks are actually porous. Have you ever looked inside rock? And trees are like our lungs. Vegetation is like our epithelial tissues. So really, we are part of the macrocosm. And within this microcosm of our body, we can start to sense this magic, this much more inexplicable law or order of nature that brings us into being. So I'm just going to stop share now before I move on to the next part with embryology. So usually here I will pause and ask for some feedback, but since this is recorded, I'm going to just move on to the next part. The last week we covered naval radiation, in which I talked about the formation of an embryo and the bilaminar disc and how that comes about to form, that comes into a fetal form, and the connection through the umbilicus to our mother as we reside within the womb, and how we move from the intrinsic body into extrinsic movement across space within the warm fluids of our mother. So I'm not going to go through the whole part of this theory, and if you like to if you like to have a recording from the last week as covering naval radiation, you can just contact me, drop me a line, and purchase the recording as well. So I'm just going to go into what I wanted to show today in embryological form. So I'm going to share screen again. Bear with me. So if we just look at the human form and think about where did we come from. Last week I actually covered how we move from a bag of cells that was actually originally one, that divided into two, and eventually into 64. It implanted. We implant ourselves in the uterus, burrow ourselves into the uterus, and then started to shapeshift again and form this bilaminar disc. There's a front body to it called the endoderm, and then the back body, and it's called the ectoderm. And the life force between these two layers actually spawn a middle layer, and that's called the mesoderm. The endoderm eventually become our gut tube, and as we develop, it grows. As we develop, it becomes also our digestive organs, and it forms the channel for nourishment. In utero, the gut tube is connected via the umbilicus to the placenta, and also to the. Let me just try and reframe it or rephrase it, because sometimes I do get a little bit stuttering with words. Language just fails me sometimes. Okay. So let's backtrack a little. The endoderm, which is the front body, in embryo form, it draws itself into the yolk sac to bring about nourishment for development, for growth. And then as we grow or develop, as the embryo develops into a fetus, the endoderm eventually became the gut tube. And then as we move into full term and be delivered as a human, in a human form, become a baby, it becomes also our digestive organs, as well as some of the very important organs like kidneys, liver. So the endoderm is in the front body, is really vulnerable. It is constantly seeking nourishment and protection. Okay, the back body, which is the ectoderm, eventually forms our central nervous system. So our spinal cord, our nerves, our brain, and then eventually it comes through and becomes our skin. So our skin is actually the brain turned inside out. It comes from the same germ layer. And then the mesoderm that was spawned begins in the primitive streak, which is now the perineal body in the space between our sexual organs. So if you're a woman, it would be between the vagina and the anus. So the perineal body is in the center of the perineum. Okay, and this primitive streak marks the beginning of a matrix that gives us form. So a nodal cord comes through the midline, and structure, mesoderm, begins to organize itself around this midline, and it becomes our connective tissue, which forms our lymph, blood, joints, ligaments, tendons, muscles, as well as bones, and all the fascia, and all the little wrappings and around everything that is within our body. Even our bones have a wrapping, our organs have a wrapping, and these wrappings are interconnected. They provide the ability for organs and cells to differentiate and to communicate, which is why it is important for the connective tissue to be in constant communication, it's important for these connective tissue to be constantly hydrated so as to ensure constant communication and constant movement. Movement is considered as health in the realm of healing. When there is movement of breath, movement of fluids, movement of cerebrospinal rhythm, movement of lymph, these all help to create health and homeostasis within our body. Just like the planet is constantly in flux and constantly moving. The river has to flow into the sea, and we need to have seasons in order to always come into balance. And in this flux and in this changes, constant changes, we learn to actually see that how this universe that we live in, whether it's within us or outside of us, is connected, and it's always relational. So I'm also going to show just some images of the embryo development, just so that you can have a better understanding of what I was talking about. So the yellow portion is the endoderm, and the blue portion is the ectoderm. The mesoderm begins in the primitive streak. Let me just, yes, in the primitive streak. And it spawns a nodal cord, okay, which is a midline. And then from the nodal cord, it starts to organize itself, so it knows exactly. The nodal cord is kind of like a compass. It points north, south, east, west. So the mesoderm then can move and develop and grow around the endoderm, as well as the ectoderm, as well as it begins to move through the connecting stalk, and the allantois eventually forms the umbilical cord. And then the umbilical cord connects to the placenta, and draws nourishment back into the yolk sac. So this is week 3 of development. Okay. Just want to, yes, week 4, we begin to see more of a curve, a fetal shape embryo starting to form, and by this time you can see that the mesoderm has really wrapped itself around to give the form, to create the form of the impending fetus. Yeah. And this shows you also a cross section of how the umbilical ring, moves through, and then the limb buds begins to develop from here. Like what I talked about last week, our hands and our feet, they actually came out first before the arms and the legs come through. And then through this anchoring of the umbilicus, we are able to then create extrinsic movement of our limbs, 6 limbs. Yes, 6 limbs, 2 arms and the head, 2 legs and the tail. I know, it's absolutely fascinating if you're a geek. Okay, and just one more screen I like to share. Okay. So this is the myofascia meridians based on Tom Meyer's anatomy trains, and he offers a much more structured look at how our muscles, ligaments, tendons, and the cellular matrix is connected through different lines. Not that these lines are separate from each other, they are still connected to each other, but it gives you a lot more perspective on, for example, the superficial back line connects the soles of the feet all the way up to the ridge of the eyebrow. And so anything that we're moving, doing in movement through the back line has a chain effect, a kinetic chain effect through the whole posterior side of our body. And when we move the back, we're also moving the front. Okay. And then there's also the lateral line of the side body, and the deep front line, which is inside the body, comes through from the inner side of the feet, up the inner calves, the inner thighs, pelvic floor, includes psoas, the diaphragm, the connection to the different organs, the peritoneal space, all the way up towards the neck and the jaw and the temporal bones. So the deep front line is considered as a stabilizing vessel. It's a vessel of our sustenance and our life force. The lateral line helps us to come back into a sense of vestibular balance. It comes back to our fish body of kind of remembering that we come from the fluids. So the ability to move and have a sense of what is around us, what is outside of us. Okay. And then let's see if I have one more I can share with you here. And this is a beautiful I don't think it's a sketch. I think it is really a representation of how we are just this complex yet structured, interconnected being. Um, and that intelligence came through something that is much greater than us, a force that, or magic, something sacred, without being religious. That is this power that is much, much more than us. So, as a reminder of our nature, that we are not always in control, that we need to trust and we need to let go, and we need to allow all the doing that we do to come from a sense of being. Okay. So I hope that they all worked. All these screen sharing, I'm just crossing my fingers. I can't actually check. But I will look through again when this recording is finished and it's uploaded. And if it still doesn't work, I will send through some the links to the Green Desert website, as well as share some photos in a private group for those who have attended the class and purchased the recording. Okay, so I'm going to guide you through an embodied meditation. So if you can get yourself prepared to come into a comfortable seated position, and then where the meditation ends, the other part of the video will pick up from the practice we had yesterday. Okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for bearing with me. I'm so sorry that sometimes I just forget things. But I hope this makes up for it. So when you're ready, let's come into a comfortable seat. Make any necessary adjustments to find more comfort, ease, and stability. And begin to just tune into the body. It might take a while for this transition, as our life is so much about what's going on without what's going on outside of our skin. That sometimes it does take a little time to drop back in. And then just start to sense the weight of your body through the parts that are touching the ground or the cushion. The weight of your legs, the weight of your pelvis, how the pelvis is supporting the torso, the trunk of the body, supporting the weight of your rib cage and your shoulders, and the arms. Is it also supporting the weight of your head? So often our head is disconnected from the rest of the body. And you can sense if there is any tension in the jaw, behind your eyes, or even the neck and the throat area. If these spaces or these parts of the body are trying to hold your head up for you. And then come back to just where your sit bones are, the two sides of your sit bones. Sensing into the weight on each side. Does one side feel heavier than the other? Perhaps you can even sense into the two sides of the body through the reference points of these two sit bones. Does the two sides of the body feel different from each other? And where do they come together, the two sides of the body? Can you create an image of a midline running through the two sides, dividing the two sides? And this midline, where does it sit? Where does it sit between the left side and the right side? Where does it sit between the front and the back? Where is the center of this midline between the top and the bottom? Notice now if you can find the source of your breath. Where does the breath begin? If you can allow your attention to come to this space behind your navel center. And that's where the center is between the front and the back. The center between the right and the left. The center between the top and the bottom. So to tune into your breath from this center, expanding and condensing. And listen to how the breath radiates into the rest of the body. Directs fluids, bathes the tissues, flushes, molecules, cells. It flows and recedes. It expands and condenses. Now take your hands to either side of your thighs, so your hands are resting on either side of your thigh bones. So the palms can be facing up, or the palms can be facing down. But the two hands are not joined together. They're just resting on the top of your lap or your thighs, keeping the shoulders relaxed. Now bring your attention to your right hand, to each of the fingertips on your right hand, each of your fingers, skin on your right palm. And the next time you inhale, begin to draw the breath through the fingertips into your palm, up your wrists. Let the breath travel up to your forearm, your elbow, your upper arm, your shoulder. Fluid seeps into your lungs, collarbone, shoulder blade, all the way to the center of the sternum, to the center of the, and then as you exhale, direct the breath out fluidly, out from the center, out through the arms, out through the hand, out through the fingertips. And the next time you inhale, once again, draw the breath in from through the fingertips, up the arm. Let it travel, flow through the shoulders, the lungs, to the center of the heart. And then the heart pumps the fluids, the air, the oxygen, carried by blood through the arm, out through the fingertips. And repeat 2 more cycles on your own, just sensing the flow of oxygenated blood, circulation of fluids, moving, guided by your breath, traveling up the arm all the way from the peripheral to the center of the body, core of the body, to the heart space, and then receding back out and beyond the skin of your fingertips, out into the ether. One more round. Next time you complete your exhale, sense into the flesh, fluids in the right arm. Feel how long your right arm is now, the quality of your right arm, the weight of your right arm. And bring your attention to the left hand, the left fingertips. When you're ready, next time you inhale, draw the breath in through the fingertips. Left palm, left wrist. Left side of the forearm, left elbow. Left upper arm. Left shoulder. Left side of your lungs. Left side of shoulder blade, collarbone. All the way to the center of the heart. Anchoring into the center. And then the heart pumps. Breath, oxygen, fluids back out. Traveling down through the left arm, out through the left fingertips. And repeat. Just allowing this tidal flow of breath and consciousness moving in and moving out. moment to moment to moment, bathing through the whole left arm, flush, seeds, flow, soothes. The next time you exhale, send the fluids from the heart space out through the left arm, left fingertips into the ether. Coming back to the center, notice what has shifted for you. The quality of both arms. The weight of your body being received by gravity. The weight of the two sides of your sit bones. The clarity of your midline. The sense of your being. And then bring the hands together to the center of the heart. Joining to the midline, skin to skin, fluids to fluids. Taking another breath. Exhaling. And then slowly open your eyes. And just bring yourself back into this room. Look at the colors, the layout of your room. If anything has changed for you, sense into your space, how you're taking up space. Where are you? Where are you in this room? Enjoy the practice. So, I'd like you now to come into stand. Okay, and just take a walk around. Just take a little stroll. And feel how you are relating to your environment now. So, how the light is traveling through the room for you. How your nervous system is processing the information of your environment. And throughout the last few weeks, I keep talking about the ability for us to hold a dual awareness of what's within, what's without. And because we are so drawn with what is without that we have often forgotten what is within, or we are so stuck with what is within, be it in the sense of discomfort or pain or grief, that we are unable to relate to what is without. So just notice how they are playing, how these two vectors are playing and intersecting, intervening with each other. Okay. And then come back to a standing position. So in yoga you call it the mountain pose, but I like to call it a soft mountain instead of like mountain. And once again, where yoga often gives asanas or postures a name so that we can embody its quality. But a mountain in the average to a mountain in, I don't know, wherever you're from might have a different
symbolic meaning. So, how does a mountain pose feel for you right now? I have sense into the base of your mountain, so the 2 feet that creates the foundation. And since if you are holding yourself with any sort of vigilance, or if there is a sense of grounding, you can feel into the center of Mother Earth. And that your navel center is alive and awake. And how are your bones landing for you at the moment? Can your bones, the rocks of your body, support you and allowing the fluids to kind of move through, flush through? How heavy is your head at the moment? Is there any gripping in the throat, any gripping in the chest, the jaw, or the eyes that's holding? And then I'm going to come back to what we have done a few weeks ago, to take your thumbs in front of you. I'm just going to come down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. You're going to take your thumbs in front of you, okay? And then bring it to arm's length and move your thumbs forwards and backwards a little, so that you bring your focus, your vision, to your thumbs. And notice your nervous system, as well as the tension in your eyes or your jaw as you bring your thumbs forward and back. And notice how connected you are to the ground when you fixate your focus on your thumbs. Notice your breath. Notice the quality of your being. Okay. And then begin to, when you take your thumbs up in front of you, the next time have your arms straight, and begin to separate the thumbs now, so you move into your peripheral vision, widening your perspective until where you can no longer see your thumbs in your field of vision, and then bring it back until you are able to see them, just about able to see them, as wide as that. Just where you're about to see them. Okay, and keep your hands where they are. Notice your breath. Notice how much more levitated or grounded are you on the 2 sides of your feet. Notice your lateral body from the midline out towards space around you. Okay. And then slowly bring the thumbs back in front of you and release your hands. And release your hands. Okay. Now take your socks, okay? If you have a super soft myofascial release ball, great. If you don't, I'm just getting you to use socks. And you're going to use 2 pairs of socks and ball them up. Okay, make them into a ball. If you have a blog or a book, you can use that. If not, the floor is just fine. Okay. And what you're going to do is to do a gentle, I know that people love to use tennis balls and golf balls and lacrosse balls, all these really hard balls, but socks are super, super soft. So I'd like you to just bring your foot, the arch of your foot over the sock, and then articulate your foot in different ways. Maybe you want to move your body around it as well, create different movement. So I don't want to dictate how you should be moving, but I'd like you to just sense into the bottom of your foot. Sense into the different ways that you can create movement and how that is moving through the rest of the body. Okay, maybe you can even try to pick up your sock with your toes. But only do one foot. Notice your breath as you are pouring your weight through. And I also like to just place the front of my foot over the sock. This is creating a lot of deep knee flexion for me. So if this doesn't suit you, don't worry about it. Okay, and then perhaps you can curl the toes under and sit on your heel. Curling my toes under and sitting on my heel. And then I'm sensing into the weight of my pelvis. And then just allowing the weight of my pelvis to release into the heel bone. Okay. And then come back up to stand. Come back into mountain pose. Sense into the aliveness of the foot that you've been working on. And maybe just in this stillness of the mountain pose, just sense into what is moving dynamically from within you. So even though you're just working on the foot, can you sense it up the leg, maybe all the way up to the pelvic floor? Maybe sense into the capacity of your breath. Okay, and then take your hands in front of you into the two thumbs again, and then move the thumbs forward and backwards a few times, and notice if one side, this is very subtle, okay? But for me, I can feel my right eye is actually softer behind my right eye. The right side of my jaw is softer, even though I'm still focusing. And then take it away from each other and go into the peripheral vision again, and notice that one side might be different from the other. Honor your experience. Yours might be different from mine. Okay. And then come back. And just let your nervous system record what the experience is. Okay. Notice if any subtle changes in your relational body to the environment, to the room that you're in. And then when you're ready, you can try the other side. And notice the difference on this side. If there are any differences in the way it's guiding you to move. I tend to move much slower on my left side because the sensations are a bit more unfamiliar as compared to my right side. This right side is so dominant, I do so much work on my right side. And the left side just evokes a little bit more curiosity. But once again, for you, it might be a different experience. Notice how you can articulate your toes. If you were to just bring in a sense of fluids from beneath the skin, fluid flow, how is the flow of fluids changing the landscape through this external feedback that you are offering through your foot? Try the front of the foot too. Once again, there are no rules. There's no right or wrong, or good or bad, or what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing, or whatever is arising. And what is interesting is because we're using salts, notice if you're chasing sensation, which is what we love. We chase sensations. And sometimes it can be seen as we create our own drama. But if we were to just drop in and move a little bit slower and follow the subtle senses, and then come back, done. Notice now what has changed or shifted for you. And then take the hands, the thumbs in front of you again, and just do this reference baseline check of whether there is less effort you need in focusing. Is focusing easier for you now? And your peripheral vision. Just a quick check. Any changes? Did anything shift for you? Yes, no, maybe? You can type it, or you can just give me a thumbs up, or no, not really. Good. Okay. So these are little magic tricks that we can do to trick our mind, to trick our brain, actually, not our mind, to trick our brain. And then it's really about a sense of safety. So we're putting the body through different things, through different forces, different energies, just that we're getting the fluids to flow again. And what it tells our nervous system is that, hey, this is safe, this is fun, I'm curious about this. And then it releases. It creates a little bit more mobility, fluidity, and more choices. So next, I'm going to get you to find a strap or a scarf. If you have a resistance band, great. If you don't have a resistance band, a scarf will do. Okay. And then I'd like you to just take your this band in front of you, okay, and pull. Have your arms a little bit wider than your shoulders, and pull the strap gently. Just pull them slightly away from each other, and then release. Do that a few times. Pull gently, slightly away from each other. Slightly away from each other. And just notice in one side, for me, I can definitely feel my right side is much stronger. I'm pulling way more towards the right. And the left side isn't, it's not giving that much. Okay. And then release. Then take the strap up over your head. And as you move the strap up over your head, notice how much you are going into an arch. Up and down a few times. Up and down a few times. And as I repeat this movement, the way my spine is arching is changing. There's a little bit more stability now for me. Okay. Now take the arms up. Okay, and then continue to just gently tug at each end. Allow your breath to move through. Good. And then go into a side bend. Just go over to your right side. Take one more breath. And then as you inhale, come back up. And release. Notice if there's a difference between the two sides. It's normal to feel a little bit more spacious on the left side of your waistline. Okay. And what we did was a lateral flexion earlier, but now let's go back to your peripheral vision. Okay? Just notice. That was a lateral flexion that we did. Does it change your peripheral vision on the left side? And then come back. Once again, just repeat again, just opening the arms towards the front first, and notice now if there is a little bit more strength or power on the side that you have just worked on. Okay, and then back up over your head, and then going into lateral flexion on over to the left side. And just allow breath to flow through. Notice if there are areas that is a little bit stickier. Notice if your weight is really able to center itself somehow, even though you're in an asymmetrical shape. Where is the give and where are the resistance? Okay. And then coming back out when you're ready, releasing. And then release the strap and then take the arms down. Feel maybe you can feel a little bit more spaciousness in the side of the ribs. Maybe even in the front and the back. And then try the peripheral vision test again. Notice that the vestibular system in your body, your sense of where you are in space, your field of perception, is it also opening up with the lateral body? Take the strap again. Okay. And this time, I'd like you to twist. Do a rotation to your right. And notice the objects that you are seeing along the way. And then come back. One more time, notice the object that you are observing through the way. Okay. Now stay in the rotation. Keep your trunk in rotation, but bring your head back to the center. But keep the trunk in rotation. Head back to the center. Yes, trunk in rotation. Continue to breathe through. Notice where are the spaces. Letting your breath bring the fluids to flush through any cells of resistance. And then just notice what is changing. Are you going a little bit deeper, or are you coming back a little bit more to the center? Just notice. And then turn your head all the way back again. And notice if you can see a little bit further. Good. And then slowly with the next inhale, bring yourself back to the center. Notice what you notice. Take a sense of that experience. Okay. And then I'd like you to do a forward bend here. You can have your knees bent. And then slowly do a roll down. And notice if one side might feel it's a little bit softer than the other. And then coming back up. Strap, and then do the rotation over to the other side. Then come back to center, and then one more time an active rotation, registering the objects that it's in your vision field. And then turn your head back, but keep the rotation. Turn your head back, keep the rotation. Good. Continue to breathe. Notice the heat that might be you're generating just through this dynamic stillness. Even though you're staying still, you're holding your posture. But where are the little areas that are slowly melding, softening? Good, and then turn the head all the way back again. And then bringing it back to the center. Take the strap away. Put that away. Notice your field of perception once again. If you can, it's not just in, maybe it's no longer just in what is in front of you. It's no longer that one-dimensional. So if you can sense into the sides of you, even the back of you, the ground beneath you. How far can you journey towards the center of the earth? And the sky above you. Okay, and then maybe just do one more testing here of your ability to focus with a relaxed sense of awareness, and then your peripheral vision. And then come back to center. Noticing the front body, the containment in the front body. That was the yolk sac when we were still an embryo, and then it became our digestive tract, and then moving into the umbilical cord to join with our mother to create that nourishment. And then the back body that's resting against the amniotic fluid, so there's always a sense of support. And the middle body that organizes our structure, that is always shape-shifting, adapting, creating. Now I'd like you to come down back onto the floor. Okay. And have your socks, have a blanket. And you're going to roll the blanket into a burrito or a towel. You can roll it into a burrito. Okay. I didn't ask for it. Ask for a cushion, but if you have a cushion, great. If you don't have a cushion, don't worry about it. Okay. What you're going to do, and those of you who are in my Tuesday night class, is the same thing. You're going to place the sock. I'm going to use the ball because my pants are black, so it might be camouflage. You're going to place it right in this gray space here. Okay. But before you do that, let's do a little baseline check. You're going to come onto your belly first. Okay. Stay on your arms like in Sphinx pose. And just notice in this position how heavy do you feel? Do you feel that there's a little bit of gripping in the neck, or is that softness? So this is your baseline that you're going to come back to. Okay. And to be on the belly in an extension position, which is not super comfortable for some people, being in a back bend. So that's why in yoga I see a lot of people doing or they're yanking their head back. But just take a baseline check now of what is this comfortable or challenging for you. And then, once again, you're going to check your peripheral vision by just turning your head all the way back and look at the furthest thing, the furthest object that you can see. And do it the same thing for the other side. Okay? And then you're going to place the ball or the ball of socks underneath the groin. It can be the right side or the left side, it doesn't matter. Just place it underneath and then fold your hands. Take the blanket and use that as a support under the frontal bone. If you like to create more of a sense of being in the womb, and this is your yolk sac, you can always use a cushion under the belly as well. This is a restorative pose. And we all love restorative pose, but seldom do we really kind of inquire into, oh, why do I feel good after I do it? And what has changed and what has shifted? We know that something has happened, but let's get more curious about it. So, with the support of a cushion if you have one, or the floor on your belly, I'd like you to just bring your attention to the navel center again and allow the movement of breath from the source, the center of your being, to flush through the whole being. Connecting to the inner rhythm of breath, sensing into this expansiveness of life force, moving from that center of the center to the boundaries of your skin, beneath your skin. Taking one more full breath here. And then just slide your hand underneath the groin space and remove the socks and straightening that leg. Just sliding that leg straight, but still staying in the position. Still staying in the scalp. And I'd like you to just sense into if there is a difference between the left side and the right side. Does one leg feel longer than the other? And if you like to just slowly allow the fluids in the body to support you, so you kind of float, a sense of being able to float the bones and the muscles and the soft tissues away from the ground as you come back into a Sphinx pose. Notice if there is more ease in being able to lift the head. And there's more tone, there's a soft tone. And then you can turn and look Side to side again, check in with your peripheral vision if anything has shifted for you. Okay, and then come back to the center and place the socks under the other side of the workspace here. And then when you're comfortable, you just bring your forehead onto the blanket roll. So creating a little pressure, gentle pressure on the frontal bone so that we don't have to carry the weight of our brain. And allow the eyes to soften, the jaw to release. And the breath to flow. Once again, sensing into the ability of breath to move fluids, the sediments dissolving, the rocks being porous, the soil becoming fertile. Maybe even sense into the back of your throat. The back of your lungs. The back of your abdominal wall. The back of your pelvic cavity. Flowing through the next cycle of tidal flow of breath, moving through and receding. And then just reaching one hand underneath the side of your body that has the bundled socks, just removing that, sliding the legs straight, taking a moment with both legs straight, sensing into that soft space in the groin. Second chakra, it's the water element. And then when you're ready, allow the fluids to meld into the tissues so the breath can float you away from the ground, not with a sense of vigilance, but a sense of spaciousness. It takes you off the ground, away, levitate. And the weight of the head is almost just the weight of a limb. Okay, and then you can turn and explore the peripheral vision field. Okay, and then just taking the hands alongside the chest. pressing yourself up and back into child's pose. Anchoring your awareness back at the navel center. Sensing fluids, sensing flow, sensing tone. It's created through the fluid pressure. So, a state of being. Okay, and then slowly coming up to sit. How's everybody doing? Good? Everyone is okay? Okay. So the last part of the practice before we close this session with the rest, I'd like you to find any toy you have at home. It can even be a couch. It can be a chair. It can just be a cushion. It can even just be this little burrito. Those of you who did the chair class, the class that we explored the chair, you can bring that chair, do that kind of that practice again. Or I'm just going to show you the basic, the lowest common denominator, which is something you all have, which is this burrito. Okay. So I'm going to invite you to move through different felt sense. Okay. So let's just all do this together first. I want you to just take your hands to your left hand to your right arm, and first feel into your skin. Okay, the skin is the ectoderm, it's the back body, and it creates boundary. It's our brain turned inside out. Okay, it's an armor, but it's also porous. And maybe you can just sense into how the skin wraps around your body. Just take a sense how the skin wraps around you. And the skin has many layers. It has the epidermis, which is the hardest part, and the most surface part, and it also has another layer that has, the subcutaneous tissues and where the nerves are. And after you move, you have the felt sense of the skin. Let's go a little bit deeper, go to the superficial fascia, which is the adipose tissue. Adipose is actually fat, right? And this is what allows the skin to kind of glide. And you can sense also into the muscles, the shape of your muscles. That's the adipose. And it's springy. It has a rebound. Actually, do you know the adipose tissue is one of the driest fascia type? Okay, and then you can go a little bit deeper into the muscles. Okay, and in the fitness world, we love to do concentric, eccentric. You can feel into the muscle, feel into your muscle tone. Get the different felt senses. It's informing the nervous system a different way. You know, muscles contract, and then feel into the bones. Go a little bit deeper into the bones. And sense into, the shape of the bones, they're in spirals. Bones are never straight. Okay, and now that you've registered this 4 systems, so skin, adipose tissue, which is superficial fascia, muscle, and bone. Okay. Lowest common denominator, if you have a blanket, you can just take this and you bring it from the pubic bone to the sternum. Okay. If you have a cushion, you can add a little bit more. If you have a chair, those of you who have done the chair class with me, don't worry about the chair. If you have a gym ball, that's super fun. So I'd like you to just begin here in the upside down starfish. Find breath first. And sense into this intrinsic movement of your breath. Listen to the sound of your breath. Okay. And then begin to find and sense into the quality of your skin. Feel how the skin creates boundary and armor. But at the same time, skin is porous. And perhaps you like to just allow the skin to touch the air around you, explore your environment, explore the air around you. Maybe you let your arm float away. Feel the skin that's covered through your clothing, and perhaps you want to just allow the antenna of the skin to also reach into space that is above your clothing. And feel the skin that is touching the ball or the bolster, the burrito, and feel into the tone of the skin that is closer towards the ground. And then I'd like you to just play around with different shapes. Okay? Allow the fluids from beneath your skin to move you into these different shapes. It can be a fluid flow of movement. It can be just static shapes that you are inviting yourself to move through or to be in. And sense into the input, the information that is coming through this structure called, or this organ called the skin. And often we think of the skin as the boundary or differentiation between self and other. but it's also through the contact of skin to skin, mother and child, of lovers with each other, that we connect and trust and find safety. So how is that expressed through your skin, whether it's in contact with the ground or contact with space? And how is it being directed by the fluid flow of the intrinsic body? And the skin gives us that form of how we manifest. And then let's get a little bit deeper. Let's go into the superficial fascia, which is the adipose, or the fat. And fat has often, has negative connotation in today's society, but if fat is a connective tissue, and the key word here is connect. It connects, it's a communication system, and it's soft, and it's juicy. How can you move through this layer? How can you express your body, your form? How can you allow the fluid flow from the body through your blood, through your lymph, through your extracellular matrix? How is that expressed through this potential latent form of energy that lies just beneath your skin? And adipose fat is sensual. It's feminine. It's expressive and creative. It can shapeshift. So you don't have to be on your belly the whole time. You can. That was just a starting point. You can allow your vestibular system to open up even more, your field of awareness to open up even more as you move deeper. Perhaps now you want to move into muscles, the tone of your muscles, how we express our sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is our motor control, our ability to mobilize and activate is so much in the tone of our muscles. Muscles are very much volitional. We control it. We think we control it. So how can that be expressed? With the external feedback that is giving you more information, whether it's a ball, whether it's a blanket, whether it's a cushion, whether it's a chair. Or maybe the muscles just want to be in a resting state because it's been doing so much. Muscles often express our rage, our frustration, but it also expresses joy and elation. And then let's find the spiral of your bones. If you were to move through this spiral shape that provides support for the body, our joint spaces are also spiral. And the wrapping around the bones, the periosteum, gives us this sixth sense of where we are in space. How far are we? What is our limitation? How far can we go? The marrow inside our bones creates blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells. It's an expression of fluid life, of our cellular intelligence. And our DNA is also in spirals. All the spaces, the matrix of our body is expressed in spirals. Our environment is spherical, it's three-dimensional. We have to move through in spiral shapes and spiral forms. And our vestibular system connects the lateral into the midline, connects the front to the back, connects the top to the bottom, to ignite birth and to return back to earth. Taking a few more moments to just shift between these states, creating tone, creating form through tone. So it's a sense of expansion and condensing, a sense of flow and recede. And this cycles of states. And our beingness being expressed through this body, this vessel. The versatility of this vessel to relate, to dialogue, to converse. And take your time to slowly come back to the sense of stillness. You can be laying on your back in Shavasana. You can be in a fetal position. You can be on a prone position over a cushion. You can be seated. And just come back to stillness, sense of dynamic stillness. Allowing just life force to move through the body. Your elemental being of earth, of water, of fire, air, space. Microcosm moving from within to the macrocosm that's beyond the skin. Allowing the ripples to settle, the weight of your bones settling, the breath, whisper. Spaciousness between cells. So this embryological state of being. Take the time to allow breath to bring itself back into your conscious awareness. Movement to manifest. Take your body across space into a stretch, a yawn. And then find your way into a fetal position if you are not already there. Curling into the navel center, center of our beginning, the center in which we connect to Mother Earth, connect to the cosmos. And take your time to be rebirthed back into a relationship with space, gravity, into a state of engagement with your environment, with what is around you, that's beyond your skin. Bring your form back into a vertical relationship with space, with gravity. Take time to reorganize your body, your form around the midline. And I'd like you to just place one hand on your chest or your sternum, and then the other hand on the back of your heart. It can be the back of your hand. And we know that fluids respond to vibration, respond to sound. I'm just going to make some sounds. So I'd like you to exhale, complete your exhale. And the first sound we're going to make is an ah sound. Take a breath in. Letting sound resonate. You can move your hands a little bit lower to the belly, sliding the back of the hand to the kidney spaces. Next sound we make is ooh, taking a breath in. And sliding the hands further down to the lower belly, to the sacral spaces. And making the sound, taking a breath in. Sound resonate from the cranium space into the sacral space. Bring the hands together back to the midline of the body, in front of the heart center. Bowing head to heart, heart to navel center, to the center of the earth. Thank you guys.